Okay, well, I think we can get started because it's already time, and when and all other people join, we can, of course, keep continuing. So, hey guys, how are you? And hope, thank you very much, first of all, for joining on a Sunday evening, given that you have your work going on or your CTs and NSEM. So, thanks a lot for taking out time to actually join this session on projects. And yeah, I am very excited about it. And so we can, as we don't have many people yet, so we can actually quickly go with the small introductions of everyone. If everyone can just quickly tell their name, where are they from, and what are they currently doing. That's it. You guys, anyone can start, or yeah, and then you can pass on debate into the next person. Like you can say your introduction and then tell the name of the other person, and then they will continue and so on.
Hi,
I would
my
like to
name is.
start.
Okay.
Okay, good. Sure, please, anyone go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Parvat, you were starting. I think there was on. You can
Yeah,
start.
yeah, yeah. Hello, this is Parvat. Sorry, I couldn't turn my camera now. So, I'm from NIT Tirchi and I'm currently studying civil engineering right now. So, that's about myself. And I'm
Okay,
from
good,
Chennai.
Parvat. Yes, that's what I wanted to hear. Okay, good. Can you pass it to the next person?
I think Anushka wants to.
Sure. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Anushka Gangil and I'm studying currently UX UI design from Symbiosis Institute of Design, Pune.
Ah, nice.
Yes, and
Okay,
basically I'm currently studying user experience.
perfect. Welcome, Anushka. You can take someone
Thank you.
else's name.
Gaurav.
Hello everyone, my name is Gaurav Kushwaha. I am currently studying in NIT Trichy, Civil Engineering, first year. So that's all about me for now.
Okay, perfect. And where are you from, Gaurav?
I'm basically from UP, Lucknow.
Okay, nice. Glad to meet you.
Um,
Okay, let's keep going.
mm,
Yeah, I think we still have people joining, so we might not be able
Yeah,
to take all introductions, but yeah, you can, Gaurav, you can pass to any other person.
I shall pass to Harsh if you want.
Yes,
Harsh.
I think I already talked to her. Uh,
mm,
yeah, you can take someone else's name because his network is off, I guess.
mm, Dharnesh. Dharnesh, is it right?
Dharnesh,
Sir,
Or Shak?
now only joined, sir.
Yeah.
you can just tell where are you from, Dharnesh, and what are you doing?
Sir, my name is S.A. Dharnesh. I am from Tirupur district, staying near Udonpet, sir.
Nice. And what are you studying now?
Sir, first year BTech IT.
Okay, great. Okay, then anyone else wants to go?
Sir, I was having bad net connection.
Yeah, sure. Harsh. Can you introduce everyone again?
Yeah, I'm Harsh. I'm currently first year mechanical department in NIT Trichy, and I'm from Nagpur, Maharashtra.
Okay, great. And then we have Swapnali, if I'm speaking it right.
Yeah, hi, my name is Swapnali. I am doing BDes in Srishti, Bangalore.
Okay, nice. Welcome, Swapnali. Okay, and then we have Shakti and Sentur. You guys can also introduce yourselves.
Hello, Suyash. I'm actually from the organizers team of JSPF, but
Okay.
I'm from Pune, Maharashtra.
Mm-hmm.
I recently completed my engineering, and I've been working with JSPF for the past year.
Okay, nice. Welcome, Shakti. And then,
Thank you, sir. Welcome to you.
thank you very much. Sentur?
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
I'm currently pursuing my first year BTech degree in civil engineering from NIT Trichy.
Okay.
And I'm from Tanjavur.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, Santosh. Good, very good. So we can get this session started. And first of all, please don't call me sir at all. Firstly, I feel old, and secondly, you feel that I'm very old. So in both the cases, it's not a win-win situation. Let's keep it to Suyash, because I think if you start calling someone by sir or something, you just think that that guy is at some pedestal or something. So I mean, of course, in colleges you must say that because it's required. But please, if you're saying my name again, say it Suyash. I think I'll be very comfortable with that. And okay, well, thanks a lot everyone for joining. And also, if you guys, if anyone of you are comfortable, you can always open your videos, and it'll be a good interactive session, because the session is more about you discussing with me, and rather than I telling you each and everything, because most of the things which are there you already know. So it's just that I'm putting the things back again, but the more we interact, the better your doubts will probably get cleared. Okay, good then. I'll share my screen. I have a small presentation for you guys. And then, yeah, let's get started. Okay, I think my screen should be visible. Can anyone let me know if the screen is visible? Just a thumbs up or yes, something.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
visible, sir.
Okay, perfect. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, guys. Good. So let's begin with the topic itself. It's called the project Ikigai. And the presentation is about the why, how, and what of the JSPF project. Well, the idea is that, when I was in first year applying for the JSPF scholarship, I never really applied. And one of the major reasons was the project part, because I completed most of my essays, but I started some projects, but never really finished it. And I tried multiple things also. And yeah, it was like, it's this one thing where you are in a lot of uncertainty as to what to exactly do or how to go about it, because more or less the essays part, you'll have a lot of resources, you'll have the past mentorship videos, and probably the next mentorship sessions, some of the other person will definitely cover the essays. But the project part is, because you're in first year, you are not very sure what you want to do, and then the project part becomes like a bit vague as to what JSPF actually requires. So I just prepared a few slides which might help us to reach there, like get a bit more clear picture of what the project exactly is, and more importantly, what JSPF requires out of us. Because whenever you're applying for a scholarship, the better picture you have, what the committee wants from you, the better it is, for you, because then you can streamline your process very easily. You don't need to think a lot, rather than focus on what is really focused on. So yeah, that's the project, and let's discover with Suyash. Well, that's me. Okay, before going to the contents part, how many of you actually, know about JSPF? Well, of course, but how many of you actually know what are the requirements of the JSPF application? Anyone can speak up, or yeah, you can even text in the chat. Anyone would like to go ahead? Yes, Parvat, please.
yeah. I know regarding the three essays that we need to write, and the project requirement, and
Yeah.
MOOC.
Okay, perfect. Is there any other thing any of you guys would like to complete? So Parvat said that there are 3 essays. There's the project part and the MOOC. Is there anything else?
Yeah, there is also like MOOC, like the course we have to complete. We have the project as well, and we need to participate in a contest.
Exactly. Yes. Perfect. Yeah. So these are basically the 6 requirements. Thank you very much, Anushka and Parvat. So you have those 3 essays, and you have the project 4, Plus, you have two other things. One is the online or the offline contest, which you have to complete, and the other is, of course, the MOOC. MOOC is the massive open online course. It's basically an online course for up to more than 4 weeks, which you need to finish and present the completion proof in your application. So today we'll be basically dealing with the project part and how to think about it, like from the scratch, even if you have not started yet, and then how to go about it. And most importantly, I think you guys would be already aware of the MYC, the mid-year checkpoint, which is next week, I guess. It's on 17th of April. So you have more or less around 1 week. And in the mid-year checkpoint, out of these 4 essays, which we discussed, actually 3 essays and 1 project. So out of these 4 written statements, you have to submit any 2 of those, right? So if you have already started with a project, it's always a good time to submit it. And because these are not your final submissions, these are just, what do you say, like a kind of a curve benchmark point, which you need to pass, or which you basically need to set up. You need to submit your documents in order to continue for, into the race and actually start applying for with the other requirements as well. So these are not your final submissions, which mean that whatever you submit here, you'll get reviews from all the mentors, including me, and then you can of course improve them. But if you don't submit, then you cannot actually apply for the JSPF process. So even if your essays or your project abstracts are not completely ready, just whatever you have, try to improve as much as you could till the next week, and then you're good to go. Okay, so let's talk a bit. Okay, I have something about me. Quickly, I'll just finish it off. So, okay, I completed my bachelor's in chemical engineering in 2021, which is like 1.5 years from today, from United Trichy. And then, United Trichy has been like an amazing, what do you say, like college is a great experience for most of us, I think. So it was the same for me. I come from Dehradun, which is in Uttarakhand, and then I went to study completely south of India, which was an issue for my parents, but I think it worked out fine. And so I did my chemical engineering from United Trichy, and currently I'm doing my master's in the same field in ETH Zurich here in Switzerland. I speak Hindi, which is like my mother tongue. I have learned enough German to communicate a bit. I speak enough Tamil so that if you place me in South India, I won't be lost. So if some of you guys are from North India and somehow studying in South India, it's better to learn the language there a bit so that you can always understand what your friends might be speaking behind your back. So it's always interesting. And so that is me. And these are some of the things which I've done. I have scored. I've got some of the few, like I got some SRSP, which stands for Summer Research Fellowship Program. So it was an internship scholarship. I've got DADWISE, which is a scholarship you do where you have to, take a 3-month project in Germany, which I did in TU Berlin. And then I also got Thinkswiss Scholarship again in Switzerland in this university called EPFL. I also qualified with a good rank in Indian Engineering Olympiad, and I also got selected for a teaching exchange in Europe in 2018. So my job was to basically go to different colleges and schools in Poland and areas, different cities within the Poland, and teach them about specific aspects of gender equality and racism. So it was more of a volunteering experience, but it was like the photo on the bottom right was like this is the kind of setup I had where there was a class of 20, 25, 30 high school students, and you were teaching them about Indian culture, about how you can tackle racism, gender inequality and stuff, because I think it's not very prevalent there. So it's always good to hear people from other countries where that might be more prevalent, and India was like one of the countries selected for the scholarship for the experience. And while applying for masters, I also applied for a lot of PhDs and other universities, and also I got accepted into a few universities. I'm sorry, which you can see: ICL, Stanford, UPenn, TUDEP, etc. Well, I mean, this is I have done, but now I would also like to share what I have not done. I have failed miserably at, which is, yeah. So I extended my internship so much that I did not actually attend most of my classes in my fifth semester, which is like any people, like I am from United Trichy. So for the engineering background people, they'll realize that actually this is not a good idea if you really want to have a good resume or if you want to fit for placements. And it wasn't because the sixth semester was COVID and I actually did not even spend fifth semester in college. So more or less, I just have 2 years in college. So, yeah, so then because I was doing this SRFP internship in IT Madras, so I actually remained there for almost 7 months. And so my parents came and it was a bit of a mess. So I won't recommend you guys to go against the rules. It's like not a great thing. But yeah, I mean, then it was fine. I gave the re-examination. Secondly, the scholarships which I mentioned above, I got only 2 or 3 of them. But the ones which I did not get, you'll get at least a list of more than 10 to 15 scholarships where I applied, and either I gave the interview, I was not selected, or I was not selected even for the interview, or even some cases no replies came, you know. So it was Spark in IT Roorkee, or MyTax in Canada, Charpak in France, Cargill scholarship. So I never got all of them, whereas I know people who have actually got. So, like whatever you see, there are tons of other things which the other person has not done. So, you don't really need to get all, you just need to get one, because at one point of time, you'll be doing only one thing, right? So the idea behind putting these points is that you see that you don't really need to get each and everything, but you put efforts, because if you don't put efforts in one thing, you won't be prepared enough to apply for the next. And then, that thing just goes on. So it's better to start preparing, give your effort in each and every scholarship, interview, company, whatever comes for you. And then you just need one. That's the idea behind it. Well, I've been into research in first year, and the first paper I wrote myself was rejected by 9 journals straight. So that was another mess in 2020. But then, yeah, it finally got accepted. And yeah, since then it's been pretty fine. And then with respect to sports also, I was pretty good in badminton, got into the badminton team, but never really followed it. So health wise and fitness wise also, it had never been like, great or something. It was fine-ish. So the idea is that whenever someone tells you what they have done, you should that's just like the iceberg. And it's always the case. For most people, they have failed at more things than they have actually achieved. So the idea is still the same, and it always remains the same, that you try as much as you could, and then you just need to get that one scholarship, that one grade, or you don't need to really worry about getting each and everything. Because when I was in my undergrad, I think that was the main focus of me, that I have to do everything. So I sat for, I didn't even write that part, but yeah, I was banned from not even sitting for placements, because no, I was banned from sitting from placements after the first company, because I got placed in a company called PNG, and then I did not go it there because I was planning for higher studies, and then PNG did not come for 1 year, I guess. So, I mean, there are multiple things which I've not written, because otherwise you guys will think, what is the issue with this guy? But more or less, the idea is that you need to focus on few things, get them right. But in order to focus that, you need to apply a lot of effort in multiple directions. And then slowly, when you start knowing who you are, then things become easier, because all these things happen before my final year, which is my fourth year. And by then I've had enough failures already to know that I'm good at this thing. I should focus on my strengths. These are my weaknesses. Let's prevent them in a better way. And I think that was the reason that when I applied to most universities abroad in fourth year, I got almost, I think, most of them 9 or 10 out of 11, or 8 out of 10, something like that. So the idea for JSPF is also the same, that from first year itself, they are trying to make sure that you get into the process of learning and understanding, because I've been a part of multiple scholarships and interviews, like every possible thing you can think, I have been associated somewhere or the other. I might not have got all of them, but the process itself, it's just so, when you're doing it, it's very irritating. Like I'm telling you the honest opinion, that I never liked, applying for each and everything. Well, because the idea was that, if I get one scholarship, it's enough for me to, let's say, pay for my master's or probably have a good thing in my resume. But when I was applying, it was like, you need to really pull yourself out of the bed and start writing those essays. It's always a mess like that. So the idea of JSPF is just that you get accustomed to the process in first year, so that when you come to your third year, whether you're an engineering background or your design or architecture, at the end of the day, there are some basic important traits which the companies look for or universities look for. And if you crack them in your first year itself, more or less you're very settled. Like, you won't have any issue. It'll be a kind of a breeze thing. You still have to put effort. You still have to prepare for your exams, your online tests, or the company placement exams, whatever they are. But it'll be much simpler because you would have already had JSPF, even other scholarships you might apply later. So that was the idea. And let's quickly begin with the session. Okay, so I have a quick question for all of you. Why is JSPF asking you to do this project? Like, why are these people forcing you to do a project in your first year itself, where you have just finished your high school and JEE and finished that part, getting into college, you're starting to enjoy your life, and then JSPF is like, no, you do a project and you write those 4 essays and just apply for the scholarship. Like, why do you think JSP is focusing a lot on the project as well? Because it carries an important, it's a whole another requirement, but I think the project part is most important and a bit more difficult because you don't know anything in first year. Like, I didn't know anything. I was just trying hundreds of things. So can anyone just quickly tell, why do you think JSPF is forcing you to do the project? Or let's say, why is it a requirement? Anyone can just throw any answer of any random thought. Believe me, it's an interactive session. So the more we talk, the better we understand. That happens with me always. So go ahead. Yeah, Harsh, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I think that the why is because as we will move ahead in our career, we will require various projects or ideas that we need to shape in reality. We need to get those things work in reality. So for that, the initial step would be to get started with something basic. So that's
Okay.
why JSP.
So you're saying something related to career might be the idea.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, nice. Anyone else? Okay, well, as what Harsh says, is that's one of the reasons. But okay, let's begin with this thing that, well, because JSPF needs it, that's one requirement. It's not something great. But the idea is that we already know that there are these 3 essays. And I think someone in the chat asked about the essays. So Dharanishwar, I guess. So yeah, please, Dharanishwar, I will be covering that part as well. So you can always, continue listening, and I think it should be cleared. So you have these 3 essays which you need to write, and it's on the JSPF website already. And the best part of the application is that every and each component helps you find something else about you. So let's say for yourself, that like the first essay, that helps you to find or introspect about your strengths, weaknesses, what are your interests and experiences, how can you use your learnings in first year for the next few years, whether you're in, let's say, engineering background or whether you're doing in architecture or design. The idea of for yourself state essay, or it's called an SOP, the statement of purpose. The idea for SOP and JSPA for anywhere around the world in any scholarship is always for the committee to know, what do you think about yourself? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? What is your passion? How have you arrived here? All that stuff about yourself. Then for the community essay, and the community essay is basically in your aspect, it's more like your college. Like, are you really aware of what's happening in your college, and do you see any problems? And if you do see any problems, can you suggest any solutions? How unique can you be? So it's more about the awareness about your surrounding. and how positively you look at the problem, not just list out. Like, believe me, I was one of those people used to say that, in the mess, they are wasting so much food. But then who is finding out the solution? You cannot leave everything to the student administration, right? That's just one example. They can be people cutting trees in your campus itself, or the buses system within the campus, it's not good. You can list n number of problems, but who is going to find out the solution? So as a student, it's like JSPF is asking you that, let's say, how can you tell or can you suggest any good solutions for the problems you have mentioned? And for the society essay is focusing you to broaden your aspect. So you start from yourself, your SOP, then you go ahead, like, what are the problems in the college and what can you suggest? Then you go at a broader scale. What are the problems in the world? Choose any one problem and define a proper solution. And this you can find like hundreds of problems, but the idea is that you should not suggest a solution which is like, okay, it can be a bit impractical, because you still need to learn what is practicality, and no one knows until you actually are at the position, let's say at a government employee or some position. But the idea is more like, are you really aware of the problem outside, and how critically can you think, right? So basically they're asking you to think more rather than just look at the internet and tell the solutions. Like, come up with something unique or something a bit crazier also, that's all right. But are you really aware? So these three essays tackle these three things. But the idea is that, what about, as Harsh said, what about your career? What about any technical aspect you would like to learn? Or, what about, like, am I really a good person? How should I prepare for my interviews? What will happen after 3-4 years if I want to apply for higher studies in India or abroad? What skills should I develop? And there are hundreds of questions like this related to your career, related to how can you think more in terms of your technical field stream. So let's say if Anushka is there and she's working in some kind of user experience project, so then she would be much more likely to get interested and have more information about advanced projects if she has already done something like this, like done a project for JSPF or any kind of small internship as soon as possible. So the idea of this project section is basically to help you get interested into your field of study, to gain consistency as a freshman, independent researcher. Yeah, I mean, the second point is very important, because as a freshman or a person who is just starting the college, I think it's very important that you start just not even get into your career or your technical field, but at least start thinking like where your interest actually lies. You still have a long time to go, but the idea is that if you start thinking a bit now, at least you can reduce your options. Like I think Harsh, only in a couple of sessions, he was like, I'm doing a lot of things in my first year, and then how should I focus and what should I do on? So, well, the idea is that you should do everything in your first year, but at the end of the day, everything, if you start doing, it's like, it's overwhelming. You have your acads, you have your sports, and you have your clubs and other things as well. So the idea is that once you do a project in a certain field, you get a certain kind of idea how things work. Every project in any field will require a certain amount of research from internet, maybe a discussion with your seniors, a discussion with your professors, your friends, and all that stuff is there, and then you continue. And then that's the way you go about any project, whether it's in a first year or whether you're doing a PhD, it's always like that. So the idea is that you form this consistency as a habit, which in first year, believe me, it's a golden habit. The only thing which you can be anything in first year is anything but consistent. Like I was not, so like it's a good thing to start with. And of course, you can hone your ability to think critically. Writing part is so important because writing brings clarity. So the earlier you start writing in your field, the better you become. That's it. And then of course, the final point is something which everyone is looking for, that, if you have done a project in your first year, it's already giving you an edge over almost all the other people, not only in your college in India, because very few people in their first year actually do any kind of technical work. And I started in my first year end, but I could have started earlier also. It could have been better, but it's always good to do things in your first year which can help to really boost your career ahead. And because anyone who sees that you have been focused about some or the other thing, not only let's say you do a project in finance, but at the end you are more interested into research which has nothing to do with finance, but at the end of the day they are not really interested in saying, okay, this guy has been doing research from first year. They would be rather focused on that even in first year this guy was curious enough to do something. You see, that's the thinking which that's the switch which comes when the interviewer or the admission committee in any university will look at you. Like in the first year itself, you're not boring your time or just completely watching series or something like that. That is one part of it, but you show something or the other, and I think first year is a good way to start. And of course, I mean, this aspect, this white picture is I've taken from the JSPF website, and this is one of their mission statements, and this is where they actually mention that anything related to your technical literacy and your technical knowledge, that is something they would really like to see. And if you're interested in any field, you do a project, you learn a lot. So the why of the project is basically to get you more interested in your field, in any field. It doesn't mean that you have to do the same thing for the next 3 years. But I know a couple of people who have done projects in their first year, which continued and became their bachelor's thesis. Like at the end of the final year, when you have to submit a project thesis, that was started in their first year itself. So it could become anything, or it could be just one project, but it will definitely help you to get a bit more idea of how things work within your field or any other field for that matter, because the basics are always the same. Okay, perfect. So if anyone has any doubt about this, please go ahead and ask. Just the why, like why are we doing the JSPF project? You can ask over the text or, okay. Okay, perfect. So do we have, okay, we don't have any questions. Good. Very good. So okay, and another thing, is the why clear to everyone? You can just raise a thumbs up or say that you're good with it. Okay, good. Perfect. And others? Gaurav, Mishka. Okay, good. Good, right. Yeah, I mean, at the end, at any time in the session, just interrupt me and ask any kind of question. And I'm not just saying that it's better, it's good that if you ask questions, because you will be asking a question which mostly people would be thinking, but they would never ask. So just go ahead and ask, because at the end, no one really remembers who asked this question or what random question you asked, but the doubt should be cleared. I think that's more important. There was this funny story where when I came to the college first time, and you have this orientation program, and in IIT there's this big hall which is called Barn Hall, where you have this whole orientation thing. And I was so very bad in English at that point of time, like, because I never really studied a lot English specifically. And so my goal was that to actually become confident. Every day I'm going to Barn Hall for those 4 days. Every session I have to ask a question. And initially it was like, what is this guy asking? I was asking random questions because it was more focused on speaking and improving my English rather than understanding the content. And after 2 days, people started realizing that this guy is just, recognizing my face a lot. It's like he's asking questions in everything. And it became a bit weird, but that one thing, it just boosted my confidence so much, because you're literally sitting among 1,000 people, 1,100 people and asking a question. And it was good. So, you should not really care about asking questions because no one really remembers. So it's good to ask any random thing you can. Well, okay, let's get back to the how now. And the how is basically, how do we do the project, right? How do we go about it? If you have not started, how do you start it? And if you have already started, then how do I continue it? How do I write the project abstract and all that stuff, So how many of you have you heard about Ikigai? And I think we have a poll. Shiva, can you release? Yes, perfect. So how many of you have actually heard about Ikigai? Okay, good. So I think we have around over 80% people have heard about Ikigai, and there are a few people who haven't. So anyone who has heard about Ikigai, can you just quickly explain in a couple of sentences what do you know about it? Anyone, just
May I?
Sure, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I know about Ikigai is basically talks about, finding your purpose. So they basically talk about what's your purpose, how should you basically, find your particular purpose. And for that, you should answer like few questions like, what do you like, like what's your passion, or what are your strengths, and what do you think the society needs. And I think there was one more point, but like combining together, if there's something like you can do, that is basically your purpose.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you very much, Anushka. Anyone else would like to add something or just tell more about Ikigai?
May I add, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, I know about Ikigai is that it's the reason for like being or existence or something, like its literal meaning.
Yeah.
And I've read that book actually, but quite like long ago, so I don't remember much of the concepts, but it revolves on various things like being in a flow, doing works, daily routine works, which are which are not very motivating for many people, but we can find purpose in everything like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's like an interesting way to look at it. But nice. Okay. Thank you very much, Anushka and Harsh. Okay. Perfect. So you guys were on point. So Ikigai is, as Anushka already mentioned, it's a Japanese concept, and it basically means a reason for being. Like, what is the reason for your existence, right? And it's generally represented this way, as you can see on your screen, where it's an intersection of these four Venn diagrams. It's like it's a combined Venn diagram, where it's a combination of what you love, what you are good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs, right? So what you love is your interests. What you're good at is your skills. What you can be paid for is the skills which are payable. Like if you can, let's say if you can, you bring something from IKEA, if you might know, and then you assemble everything together. Well, that's a skill which mostly people won't pay you for, because it's not that monetizable, right? It's very simple. You can just see the instructions in the journal. You can put up all the things of the furniture, and you can make your own furniture at home. So what you can be paid for is basically the skills which you can monetize. And finally, what the world needs is the society aspect, right? Like what you should be doing, which might help the world also in some way. And it's very interesting to see this thing, because what the world, like more or less what the JSPF application covers, when I was reading at it, it's like when we went to the slide before where I was showing each and every essay, more or less each and every essay covers one or the other aspect. And there's like a separate essay on what you can do for the society, and this is this fourth circle, what the world needs. So that was like one similarity which I found. So Ikigai is something which you can actually use for everything. Well, the idea in the book and the concept has always been just on what to do for your life. I use this concept for my university applications also. I don't have that document now, but I sketched this on paper, that what I really like. I mean, I know what was my interest and what am I good at and everything, but when you start writing it, you get a bit more clarity of what you can be good at, and are you really good at this university? Should I apply to this university? And then you get more clear picture, if your skills are really good for this university or not. So I rejected a lot of universities when I got the admit just because of this reason. Because I think what I wanted to do versus what the university is doing is very different. As simple as that. So you can use this for anything, even for, when you're applying for your interviews or your internships in your third year, fourth year, whenever. There are in sections in your resume where you write your strengths, weaknesses, skills, or something like that. It's always good to have a clear picture. And this can help you. It may not give you, sometimes you may not reach your Ikigai at the end, but if you think more to find commonalities, at the end of the day, you will. So the idea is that we already have this concept of Ikigai. What if we create an Ikigai for our own project? And that was the even title of this presentation. That somehow create this project Ikigai, where instead of have every element of those circle as every element of life, you have every element as an element for your project. You know what I mean? Like every aspect which might help you to find your project, to understand what project you might be best suited for you. And so then I changed this Venn diagram a bit, and it probably looks like this now. That in the 4 circles, you have these 4 different things. So you can have something based on your interests, based like what project. So whenever you're filling a circle, your idea should be, what project shall I choose based on my interests? What project shall I choose based on my skills, and so on, based on my career, and based on what can I contribute to the society. You'll of course get the slides, and after the session, you can always look detailed into it. But the idea is that combine your interests, your skills, something related to your career, because your skills can be one thing and your skills in career can be another thing. And then based on what you can contribute to the society. And the idea of this activity is basically that if you write these things down, there's a strong probability that you will find common things in all the 4 elements. And then that is more or less your project Ikigai. So that thing, whatever will come at the end, that will tell you that you should do your project in this field. Now that field could be based on, of course, what you have written, but it will give you a wider perspective of, let's say, I'll do the activity next. I'll show you what I did. And then I think you can get a clear picture, right? So let's find a reason, and let's begin with me again, because I think it's easier if I start and then I have a small activity where you guys will be doing that, and we'll see that how it works, or even if it works or not, right? So yeah. Okay, so what did I do? I actually, and this is all original things, so I also tried this 2-3 days back while I was thinking that should I really present this or not, and it kind of worked for me, but it took some time. And so projects based on my interest. Okay, so again, I will go back. So you have to write these 4 headings: projects based on my interest, project which I should do based on my skill, anything. The idea is that every element will have projects which you should do based on these 4 things: based on interest, your skills, your career, and society. So I started with project based on my interest. So my interests lie from psychology. I read and speak a lot about philosophy. I've always been into teaching and public speaking, communication. Writing is important part. Research in chemical engineering and any STEM field. DIY is do-it-yourself projects. So I used to do a lot of these things also. So these are my interests. I had a lot. Okay, I'll say this. I had a lot of interest, but then I cut short to 5. But when you are writing this thing, or when you are starting this process, write everything. Don't worry about no, this is not my interest, this might be my skill. No, this might not be my skill, this I should do for the society. Don't think about that. Your first draft should have everything. Like if you think your interest is making YouTube videos, but that is also a skill, right? So you'll write that in your skill also, because you'll edit YouTube videos and you know how to edit them, and shoot better, buy a good camera, and then shoot at different angles, anything. So the idea is that you list as much as possible and make things more common in different fields, because then only you can find your Ikigai. So the plan is that you mention things in every element and then try to find the commonalities in every other element apart from that, right? So the project based on skills. So some of my skills are like, let's say, you teach, you podcast, critical thinking, which is something related to research projects, right? And then I am still very interested into finance and, investment, mutual funds, stocks, bonds. I mean, I invest. That's like a very interesting thing for me to read more about. And then one of my skill was to code for numerical work. Not like I'm a chemical engineer, so I was not very interested into doing computer science stuff, but I wanted to use coding for my part, right? It was just one thing. And then communication again. So communicate, you see, like in the first and the second part, communication is one thing very common, right? That was also a skill and an interest. And then you can see the same thing with research projects. Something related to research was there in both interest and in skills. Teaching was one thing. Whereas finance, if you see, it's a skill, but it's not. I've not mentioned it in my interest, but I could have mentioned. Well, the idea is that, as I said, I've cut down a few points because I cannot mention everything in the slide. But as a starting point, you should mention each and everything, right? Let's go to career. So career for me, I like this section is something which you should be very, very focused on what can help you in career. It can be a technical skill. It can be a soft skill as well, right? So I have mentioned mostly of my technical skills because soft skills, I mean, I had that part in my interest and I never really think that much about the soft skills because more or less that has not been an issue for me. But the technical part is like there have been places where I was not technical adept to apply for a particular scholarship or even, when I was writing my paper, the first rejection was that, this doesn't sound logically right. So, I mean, the reviewer said that to me. So, those things were there, but I was still in second year, so there was a long way to go. So based on career, I wrote some things like I'm very interested into catalysis, like it's a chemical engineering subject, simulations, designing. Designing is something I learned and I'm still learning in Photoshop or Illustrator because, you don't really get to do a lot in engineering colleges, believe me, in undergrad, but it's such an important skill. If you can replace tons of information in a page by just a single figure, you are smart and amazing, like you're done. You should be good enough to, cramp up information, understand what the information is saying, and then try to figure out only a few points and then somehow convert it into a figure, diagram, a sketch, something. And yeah, that's it. And project based on career will be like if I do a project with a professor or if I do an internship, that could be a project for me, right? Project can be in catalysis, reaction engineering. So the idea is that you say these prompts regularly: project on designing, project on simulations, something like that. And finally, what the society needs. So again, here you can volunteer. You can do a project, just pure volunteering with NGO or, disaster relief teams like in United Trichy. I remember there's this team called Humanity, which does a lot of this stuff for villages. And, while I think there was a cyclone in 2019 or something, and they helped a lot. I mean, I made contributions, but I never helped. But it's you can, get in contact with them. You need to go, of course, to talk to them, but you can, work with NGO helping people in nearby villages, right? It's also a project. It's just that how much you work and how much you contribute to, that's at the end. It doesn't really matter if you have done, if you have achieved a huge milestone. Well, if you have done, very good. You should mention that in your project. But you should not do the project with the intention to do something great. You should do the project with the intention to just get interested into something and know the process, to learn about it, right? I'll repeat this again. You should not do a project with the intention of achieving something great, because if you start something, like if you start with that mindset, you are not creating impact. You're just focusing on the artificial things, right? And same as with the research. Like it's the same thing which one of my seniors told me, that you do not do research to publish papers, right? You do research to be curious, to find out what it is. And then of course, once you start getting into it, you need to find some results which are publishable enough, right? If you're getting into PhD or something like that. Okay, coming back to what society needs. So another thing was that I was very interested into this teaching or STEM design, communication for underprivileged sections. And I did that a lot in undergrad. Every semester I was teaching some or the other person in some other part of the country. And now currently also I do teach mathematics and science to people abroad in other countries online. So like that's something I'm indirectly doing for society, but it's also my interest, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is that, you know, you design some technology with your prof. Like it was always whenever, if you're interested into some, you know, a technical aspect, let's say, your field itself, whether you're in design field or engineering field, you can always design or, you know, develop some kind of product or something like that, which might help. In my immediate mind, one of the things was cheap water purifying system, because I kind of worked on it. This unified college app was something I was working with my friend while in NIT Trichy, which never happened actually, but yeah, it was admin issues, but yeah, I mean, it's something you do, right? And then something like set logistics with admin to deliver things to professor or students, like if you do a project just on this, right? So the idea is that you mention as much as you could. I mean, also don't spend too much time mentioning each and every small detail. Like if you're good at cooking, don't start mentioning every dish you can cook well. The idea is that you mention these things in each and every element, and then eventually your goal should be that probably find commonalities in each and every element. If you're not finding commonality, try to think further that, let's say if I teach for my interest, can it also be called my skill, or is it just my interest? I don't want to call it my skill, right? But if it's a skill which is monetizable also, right? So I think it's a skill. That's what we're talking about, right? Similarly, let's say a project based on career. Yeah, for example, finance. I would never think of doing a career in finance. Like, I mean, I thought before, but it was not something very consciously, right? So I did not mention the finance part in the career, if you see, but I've mentioned finance in my skills. And probably I mentioned it in my interests also, but never in my career, because I'm like, I'm not that much into finance that I want to choose money and numbers as my career option. But it's interesting to read and understand that. So I did not mention that, right? So you need to be very careful of not mentioning random things in other elements which you don't think are true. So be very true to yourself. And similarly, what society needs. So the idea here is that mostly what other three elements you have already filled up, you should see if you can find one element which you might have an application for the society, right? Did you get the point? That let's say I wrote for teaching also. If teaching was not a career option for me, had teaching been a career option me, I could have find multiple ikigais. So, okay, I've not shown this actually. Yeah, well, the idea here is that, you know, there are four common things here. Research comes into each and every aspect, each and every element. And the idea was just that somehow my ikigai for project was to do something, a project in the field of research, something related to my field. And that was my idea. And had it been first year, if someone would have told me this thing, it would have been very great, believe me, because this idea itself, when I was doing this exercise, right, even now also it helps me get clarity of what are my interests, what are my skills, can I apply my skills to get something or get something for the society, and is the skill, is the interest, can it help me to get into my career also, right? And believe me, I'm saying it very honestly, it gave me again a bit more clarity. The more you write these things separately, the better clarity you get, and you need clarity at the end of the day for each and everything, right? So this is the way I found out my kind of project ikigai, and I think it kind of worked for me, right? And yeah, so any questions about this now? Because it's a new thing. I'll tell you again. So you write those four elements which are mentioned here. You draw four sections. Project based on your interest, what you would like to do, or what are your interests. Similarly, project based on your skills, your career, and most importantly, what can you use out of those three elements, which you can also use for the society. Or you can also even mention something completely different, like the one which I mentioned, like the last point of this, what society needs. Set up a logistics kind of thing for admin, and I was doing it to a certain extent. I mean, not for JSPF, but I was doing it separately because it was kind of a need for all of us. And then at the end of the day, they started to bring some things, like they create an app for putting up all the documents for the administration in one app, and you can apply for leaves in one app. So it was good to a large extent. But the idea is that I would not, so this is completely different from my other three elements. You would not find the logistics part in my interests, in my career, in my skills. So you can always mention different points, but the idea is that somehow try to find a commonality. You should of course try to do it. But at the end, if it doesn't come, then also there's a solution, which we'll discuss later. So yeah, and then when you write it, you kind of get what kind of project you should be doing, right? So now let's quickly have some questions if you guys have about this process, and if you want me to explain it again, if you have any doubt in this process, just whoever is here, just let me know. You can always ask on chat also, or even speak it up, which will be much better. Yeah, Parvat.
Yes, sir. So I have a question.
Suyash.
Let's say if all the four elements that you have described, like let's say if I don't find a commonality with all four, but then I find commonality between 2, 3, then what should I do, or how to proceed after that?
Okay, good. Yeah, exactly. So I have a couple of slides later for this as well, but the idea is that if you find only two commonalities, then either you list more points in each element, or you somehow try to see that I have one, let's say I want to do teaching, which is my interest and my skill, but it's not my career. So you should think currently that can it be a career option as well? Can it help me develop some skills which might at the end of the day help me in my career? Because teaching will involve a lot of speaking and a lot of communication, organizing stuff, which helps you in any career. So that is one thing. For me, it was like I don't really want to go into teaching. Like it's not a hard-bound choice, but maybe I could have done it, right? So the idea is that you try to find common elements, but if you don't, you shouldn't force yourself too much also. If you don't, then out of those two things, whatever you like the most, you should go ahead about it. Like then you might not find your Ikigai, but you have some clear options which have brought some bit of clarity in your mind, right? So that's the idea. The idea of the exercise is not exactly to reach your Ikigai, because sometimes you cannot. Or the idea is because the problem is that sometimes we don't really go deep into the thought enough so that we understand what is my skill, what is my interest, and that's completely all right, because it's a new process, it takes some time, but it will give you some clarity, and that's the idea, right? So even if you find two things out of the four elements, just think what you can do about it, and can you create a project out of it? Because at the end of the day, you do this exercise or you follow any other guideline, the idea is you need to choose a project. So you choose out of those two, or you choose out of four. Anything is fine. But if you choose out of four, that is something which is aligned in every aspect. That will help you to justify your application even more. Because then you as an applicant are looking your project from how it helps you. Are you good enough into that, and how it helps the society? Imagine if you write all these things in the JSPF abstract versus a separate abstract where you just mention what you have done, right? So there's a difference. So that difference will only come when you have written these points and understood how much you like one thing, and can it also be used as something for the society, or can it be used for my career? So that's the goal. Okay, good. Any other question? Okay. Okay, since we don't have questions, so as I said, let's go ahead and do this exercise for you guys. So let's quickly take 5 minutes. I'll start the timer, and then you guys mention those elements which are already here. And then we can just quickly take one of you, and then I can write a few things for you guys, and then probably find Ikigai yourself, right? So you can have a pen or a paper, you can even write on your phone. Just go ahead and take some time and write about it. Okay, sorry. I'll just keep the time. Okay, is the timer visible?
No, sir.
It's not visible. Okay, then, okay. I mean, you guys have approximately 4 minutes, I think. Just go ahead and write your. So you don't need to go a lot into detail, but just enough so that, you have some idea about each and everything and probably even find your Ikigai there. Let's take a couple of minutes more. Okay, good. So how did it go? Would anyone like to share? Did anyone try this? Because then we can quickly see what your interests or career options are and then probably find something which you might be actually doing for your JSPF project. So anyone would like to volunteer?
Yes, sir. I haven't listed much because of time, but I do
Sure.
have written.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, Harsh. So go ahead. What have you written in your interest?
Sir, in interest, I have written robotics management and teaching.
Okay. So robotics. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Good. In what have you written in your skills?
In skills, video editing, communication,
Okay.
and like coding in Python or something like that.
Coding, let's say for projects,
Yes, sir.
and languages will include Python, right? So,
Soldering,
okay.
I can also add right now.
Sorry, what?
Soldering or maybe circuit.
Okay. Soldering, circuit design, let's say. Oh, sorry. Okay. And based on your career,
I was like unable to think very relevant things, but energy related project or design related project I have.
energy related. Okay. Are you from mechanical?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Design related project. Okay, good. Yeah. And something for the society.
Maybe efficiency increasing products, like something like that. Project based on efficiency increasing and
So this
like
is a STEM
improved
project.
design. Like any already existing design we are innovating and improving.
Okay. Design and what? Like any specific application or is it general, any design?
Any design, like it can be for efficiency also, or for like better you say better attractiveness or something like
Mm-hmm.
maybe in any terms the design can be improved.
Okay, good. So basically improving design, like it's a good, it's like a vague thing, but we can of course narrow it down. Nice. So what do we look at here? Okay, your interests are something related to robotics, management. What do you mean by management? Like, do you want to manage teams or management in terms of organizational skills? How do you think?
Organizational or supervision, something like that.
So leadership kind of thing. Leadership, or you're a part of multiple teams and then you manage your activities there. Good. And then you also like teaching. And okay, so like I kind of find a common already here, but let's find more. You said coding for projects in Python, and that project of course will be in your field and let's say mechanical, or would you be interested into doing something else?
Yeah, like it can be a combination of mechanical and like, software and electrical or something.
Okay, good. So it can be electrical, it can be even network. Nice. Right. And then for related to career, you already have energy related projects or design related projects. And the idea is that if you, like, can you be a bit more specific here? Any particular application or something? Because you see, I already find that you are interested in robotics. I find that you are also interested into coding for projects, which you can use here. And you are also, your skills are actually into circuit design and soldering. So you are linking these things. Then you are linking it with design related projects, right? Which means that you would like to, I mean, in my case, I would like to design something applying robotics and soldering or circuit design. That is what I'm thinking. But if you are what do you mean by energy related projects? Like, I mean, I have a vague idea what you're saying, but what do you think?
Like anywhere, like if we are improving efficiency, or even like we are developing something which is like completely new in terms of conserving energy or something.
Okay, just throw a random application, something you will be interested in.
So like maybe working on a certain aspect of any existing power plants to improve its efficiency.
So energy related projects would have something related to power plant. Yes, good. And then society needs some project in STEM, or like both of these things more or less are related to your projects, right? So like, do you find any four common things here, even though they are not directly mentioned? Do you find something which you will be interested in?
Yes, sir, definitely.
I mean, like, let's say if I want to, let's say if you have to decide a project, what will be in that?
Like my
What will be that?
ideas here are not very like to the point, so
Doesn't
it's still-
matter, but from what you have written already, can you form something out of it?
yeah, like the four things which I can see in common is like robotics, coding, and then like even the energy or design also, any of it might work, like improving in circuit design, or maybe more on the mechanical side. I can think of energy and doing something in it.
Yes, exactly. Like what I see is that you are interested into robotics. And then you have mentioned coding here. So you can mix them up with either a design related project or an energy plant, power plant project. And then your society things completely mentions about a project related to all these three. So at the end, basically, you came to a conclusion that you want to do something related to a coding project in design or in robotics or something. So now you have like a bit more clearer picture into it, and then your idea should not be now to start looking at 100 things. Now you know that what you want to work on, and then for my case, like I would just completely start with contacting professors and start working with them immediately, if I would be thinking. But the idea is that you probably mention more points, and at the end of the day, it's better to have more points than to take a decision very quickly. But good, like I hope this exercise helped you in some way.
Hi Suyash, hi Harsh. I just want to, if hope you don't mind, I just thought I'll add one more place.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
like Harsh, very well done. Like the way you went, amazing. And like Suyash said, you can always reach out to professors, but do read up online, because the things which you have mentioned, there is a ton of material which you can read, which will help you join the dots even better. Then you reach out to professors is a win-win. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, of course, whenever you're reaching a professor, you do your background check, everything. Make sure you have something for it. But okay, that's good. Anyone else would like to try, because this is also very STEM project focused. Did anyone else try this out and found something else? I think Anushka, you were from the design background, right? Did you find something for yourself?
Yes, I found something, but it's just that I want to like discuss about it privately rather than here.
Okay, perfect. Good. Yeah, definitely. Sure. Anyone else would like to just give it a try? Because I think I also did a STEM project, so it'll be too much of technical projects. If anyone found anything else, we can use that as an example.
Can you help me out?
Yes, definitely. Who is this?
I'm Shantur.
Okay, yeah, Sento, definitely. Go ahead.
Am I audible? Am I clear?
Yes, you are very clear. Let's start with your interest and probably if you find something. Right. Okay. So what did you write in your interest?
Research in STEM field.
Okay. So what are you doing currently?
Civil engineering.
Okay. So that is your interest. Okay. Research in STEM. Right.
Cooking.
Good.
Then cultivation,
Nice. So something related to agriculture. Finance.
And communication.
Communication. Okay, very good. What did you write in your skills?
Yeah. Next up, skills. Okay.
Yeah.
Cooking,
Okay.
communication,
Okay.
and cultivation.
Perfect. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Anything you thought a good project for your career?
Research in the field of transportation,
Research and transportation. Okay.
then project with professors or internship.
Okay. Internship with prof, something like that. Okay. Good.
And web development.
Web development. Nice. Very good. And then something related to society.
Volunteering.
Can you be more specific, like any specific organization or just anything is fine?
Public work department, PWD.
Okay.
Public works.
Yeah. Sure. What else?
Then product designing.
Product designing. So that you want to do for the society. Okay.
And teaching.
So good. Okay. Now what we have here is like currently. So what do you think? Like, do you find anything common, or can you include something in any other element as well? Like, let's say you have.
When you say research and transportation,
Yeah.
can elaborate that a little bit, because that might help you find your answer a little more clearer.
Yeah.
I mean, what exactly are you looking for in the transportation segment? Is there a specific industry you're looking at? What is it when it comes to your mind when you're talking about research and transportation?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can be a bit more specific, because then if you
increasing.
Increasing.
Yeah. Increasing the strength of materials.
Increasing strength of materials. Okay.
And
so
also
basically
drainage system.
Drainage system. Okay. So you are more into, let's say, materials or drainage system. Actually, both of them are completely different, but nice. At least that's much more specific, right? Good. So let's get back to your interest. So we find same thing, that the research part is still here. It's still here as well, and but it's not there in both the skills and the what society needs, right? But can we have, like, what do you think are the skills for research project, just in case if you would like to include that as well? Like, can you include it in your skills? That's the question.
I don't easily get bored on researching even a random topic.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So I'm more engaged.
Okay, perfect. So that's more like an interest, but the skill is something which you have developed. So you never know until you have done. And since you're in first year, you might not have done it. So that completely makes sense. And then we see that cooking is both in interests and in skills, but you're not interested that into your career. Let's go next point. Cultivation is something you mentioned again in your interest and your skills, but nothing as such. And would you be interested in doing cultivation as a part of volunteering exchange or experience, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that can be, that there's some commonality there. And okay, communication is an interest, is a skill. I mean, communication you need in every career, so that's even if you don't try, that's there. But what society needs, you are interested into teaching. So, sorry. So the idea is that first, on a first glance, you don't find anything common, right? And that's what I said in the beginning, that there's a strong probability that you won't find it. So then the idea is that what next? Like, can I find something common in 2 to 3 fields? And one thing is like this cultivation thing is somehow coming up again and again. So, and it's very unique. Like no one ever mentions this, which is an interest. It's also a skill, and it's also you can do something in the society, right? So if you don't find any commonality in 4 things, you can do something related to cultivation, something related to, as simple as, so what kind of cultivation, can you be more specific? What is your actual interest?
Maybe horticulture.
See,
Horticulture.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the point is that it's a very unique thing and it can be formed a project, but you need to search out how. And the best idea is that probably go out online, check if you can, uh, get into horticulture a bit more, understand it a bit more, probably, get in contact with people who are actually practicing it and get into the specifics of breeding the species and stuff, right? Do you get my point? That
Yeah.
it's a
Got
very
it.
unique thing, but it's also a very new thing that even if whenever someone in the JSPF panelist they read it, it's be like, what has this guy done? You can actually make it very good because it's very unique,
Oh,
right?
nice.
Also,
So the
Santur, just another point. Since you mentioned horticulture, there is a link here because Suyash has put it out. You also mentioned that research in transportation is something you want to do, right? Now, when it comes to horticulture, since it's very sensitive, transportation forms a very important point into this industry in general. You can link all of this and probably try to find out how horticulture is very important to be done in the right way of transportation, and that might give you a link as well. So it's a very time sensitive in cultivation industry, and
yeah,
transportation does serve as a backbone for it. So you can look into that in details.
yeah, I mean
Okay,
that's
I
such a
understand.
tremendous point, right? Exactly. You can merge these two and somehow find like how can transportation help you in making sure the horticulture part is not really affected, right? So I think that's a completely new thing which we discovered, right? So Harsh was more into STEM project, and even though here again, when you do this exercise on yourself in your room, you spend half an hour on this. When you write all the points together, there's a huge chance that you'll find multiple commonalities, and then you can start thinking out if I can merge 2 of them, all 4 of them, 3 of them, and find something new, right? So the more you write, the more clear your mind gets. Like you really dump out everything on paper, and then you finally achieve kind of a common ikigai place, right?
Ah,
Perfect. So I think we have some kind of idea of what we have to do, right? We just at the end of the day, you mentioned these 4 points. Sorry, basically 4 elements. Write as much as you can, but of course, try to find commonalities. Be a bit more specific, as Monica said before. Like if you're trying just writing research is very vague. You need to write research in this field because then you have to think, if I'm really interested in researching into finance, if I'm into my own core, if I'm into architecture of buildings, or if I'm into research into just, let's say, crops or something like that, can be anything, right? But at the end of the day, you should be you should be a bit more clear, then only you'll be able to think more. And then you have projects based on skills and what society needs. So once you mention, I think there's a very good chance you'll find your ikigai. But then what if you don't? Well, that's the question which we already discussed before, and I kept this specifically because it will happen most of the cases. So first point of suggestion is that you spend more time in those elements. You actually start understanding what your interests, your skills are. You mention as much as you could, right? Your first draft should have as many points as you could. Try to find commonalities, and I think we just did now that we try to merge each other, right? You connect with your roommates and your friends or even your seniors or something, and if you contact with them, you'll find a different point of view with them, right? They'll just say that, like what Monica just did, you'll find 2 points and somehow you can merge them together. For Harsh, your case, there were a lot of robotics, but you also have that as a skill, so you can use some kind of a device which you can use for the society as well, right? Something in those lines where you find commonalities, because the idea of commonalities is not to make your project great. The idea is that once you write your abstract, it will stand out because it will be your interest, you are good at it, but you have done something for the society and it will help you in your career. That is much better than doing something which just interests you. But of course, there will be people who will be just writing about their interest and well, and if they have done decent in the project, that will also stand out. But the chances are that if you have written all those 4 points, you will be in a pretty good position to write a good abstract, which I think is very important because at the end you just submit your abstract, right? And okay, apart from that, there are a few things here. You can try to find common points in multiple Ikigai elements. Try integrating the points together as we discussed. And at the end, even if still it doesn't match, like you can't find 4 together, then just see if you have 2 matching, or even if none of them matches, which is like, I don't think so it is possible, but if nothing matches, then just do for what you love the most. At the end of the day, you have to do a decent project. It doesn't matter whether all the 4 elements match or not. You have to write it well then. You have to think more in terms of writing. How can I present it better? Because no one is asking for your project details. They are asking about 1-page abstract of what you have done, right? So that's very important, that don't mess yourself a lot of, like Suyash told in the session, that you should think about it and I'm not finding my Ikigai. That's not the case. The idea of the whole exercise is for you to list out your thoughts and have 4 pillars where you can start writing an abstract. And finally, we reach the end part, like the what. Like the what is basically the project execution part, right? So the project execution is that now we have, currently it's the 2nd week of April, your mid-year checkpoint where you have to submit 2 out of your 4 essays. That's next week, next Monday, I guess. And so that's it. So this is the timeline which I would have prepared for myself. So I am not a person who would write each and every hour or each and every minute. I would rather be a bit more practical than paper perfect. That's what I've mentioned. Like choose project by 3rd week of April, which means that you have basically 1 more week, not even 1 more. You have approximately 2.5 weeks to choose your project, which means that you have enough time to do this exercise. You can repeat it multiple times, connect with people, and finalize a project. First, when you start, you'll be at a position, okay, I know that this is a random area. Then you start researching more on internet. Then you talk to seniors. Then you talk to people around. Then you get to a bit more streamlined, specific point of view, right? And I think 2 weeks is more than enough. You have your exams as well, so don't spend a lot of time on this. But I think you have enough time. I think if you go about it, you can easily choose within 3 to 4 days only. It's not such a big deal. And then I would have finished it 50% by the end of May. But of course, you guys would be having exams and all, so then you have to change this timeline accordingly. You finish 100% by the 3rd week of June, and then final draft and revision by June or July, because July is your deadline. Because in August you will be shortlisted and the interviews will go on and then the results will be out. So I would finish the project by June end. Now, what I mean by finishing is there's a huge chance that you would not be finishing your project because it'll be huge. You would have taken something big, right? But you have done some kind of substantial work to show in the project abstract. That's the idea, right? So this 100% by the end of June can be July 1st week for you as well. But of course, you should do it before the deadline. But the idea is that you spend enough time so that you have enough pointers to show in your abstract. You're not vague enough in your project, right? In your abstract. And yeah, and the second part is, of course, work on it, ask for help. If you're working with a professor, then you have already the help. But if you're working on your own, then it's better to ask for seniors, JSPF, mentors here, JSPF committee, JSPF team, the people who have been finalists of JSPF before, they can help you because all of them are from different fields as well, So you have a lot of help, but ask for it. Keep discussing with your friends, always document and write regularly. Third point, I cannot stress more. Document each and everything, what you're planning, what you're doing. Because once you start making progress, you will forget what you have done 2 months back. And then the only thing which you will remember is that pointers in your Word document. Okay, at this point of time, I've reached till here, but I have to improve this, and then we did this. Believe me, when you do a project for 2-3 months, you make a progress which you don't realize. And then when it comes to writing it, it becomes very difficult, right? So the idea is that document your work as much as you could, and so that it helps you to write in the project abstract. And now we come to the elephant in the room, which is the abstract. And I think this is it. You do whatever you do, if you can express it amazingly in the abstract, you're done. Like you don't need to really worry about it too much. I know a lot of people whose profiles, when they were applying for higher studies abroad, their profiles were like, okay, good, they have done enough, but it could have been much better. But then when you're applying abroad, you always submit only a couple of essays and just a resume, right? They did that fantastically very well. And then some of them got good universities, which others only dreamed of with their profiles. So the idea is what you present is matters the most. Of course, that's just, if you're more honest and integrated, that will help in your interviews as well, because whatever you present here, that will be asked in your interview also. So you have to be honest with yourself. So this is like a kind of a random sketch which I prepared. Since we don't have a lot of time, I'll just quickly go through it. That any proposal abstract you have will have 3 major things. The research problem or the motivation, like the background goal of the project and so on. The process is basically what you do, the actual work which you're doing. And of course, you mentioned what was previously done, what new am I doing here. And the conclusion part is where you mention what you have done until now and what is the possible application. So that's pretty much it. You can, of course, read this and get a quick hang about it. No need to go too much in detail into this, but if you follow a particular structure, plus you already have a template on the website. But if you follow this kind of particular structure, I think it's more or less, it's a very easy job, because you have everything listed, you have already documented your progress, and now you mention a research problem, what you are focusing on, how did you tackle it, and then what are the conclusions of your study. And you don't need to show that you have conquered the problem, right? Like, like if you have done a project in STEM, you don't need to show I just solved it. You cannot. They don't expect you to solve it. They just want to see how much effort you have put in. And if you get a good result, well and good, present it. And a quick example. So this is like one of my statement of purpose, which I use for SRFP in my second year. And it got selected for my, like it helped me to get into IIT Madras. And the idea was, it was just 250 words. So this is actually nothing. But this kind of clarifies what I told in the last slide, right? Like the first paragraph is where I'm more interested into biofuels, and why am I doing it? Because fossil fuels are going on and we need to find alternatives. This part is where research motivation comes and the objective and significance come, like the why of the project. And then the second paragraph is more or less where I was still working and what am I doing. Since it's just 250 words, so I cannot explain it a lot, but the idea is that building on what has been done before and what am I doing. And then finally, the final paragraph, I extended it a lot just because I was a bad writer in second year, so I did not know much. But don't really write the final paragraph the way I've written it, because I've just written too much of extra things which I didn't write in my final year master's applications. But the idea is that you mention a conclusion, and then you mention that, okay, possibly with my project, we can reach this level. You just say it, right? Because why not? If you put enough work into your work, there's a possibility, right? And then, of course, there are things which are missing, like in the green pen, you can easily see that I did not mention any of the previous works. You should. If you're doing a project into STEM or something, always mention something which has been done previously. If you're doing, let's say, what Senthil said, something related to cultivation project, it's such a new thing that there might not be much resources into it. So your project is a new thing, so you don't need to mention a lot previous things, but you need to do a lot of background research into what you're doing, right? And there's no differentiator, only one line of implication, which is basically, I think, the first line of the final paragraph, and it's too theoretical. Okay, when you're writing a statement of purpose, you can't include graphs or something, but in your abstract, I would keep it unique by including some kind of figure, graph, numbers, include something. It's again a new thing. No one will expect it, but if you do it well, why not, right? Of course, ask the JSPF team again before doing that. But it's a crazy idea which came into my mind that why not, right? There are graphical abstracts where you can just put the whole information in some kind of a picture or something. But that's not a substitute for writing. So write everything, write the 1 page long abstract, plus submit this thing as an extra thing, right? And things to remember is that keep your abstract very simple. Don't really get into jargons and complicated words. You can do proofreading by Grammarly or thesaurus.com. I use these a lot. Simplify with websites like Jenny AI or WordTune. So these are artificial intelligence websites. And now ChatGPT is like exploring. You can always ask for help. But be very careful because ChatGPT doesn't give 100% true results every time. So, and you need to don't rely on ChatGPT, believe me, it might mess up with your application. So just use it for some idea searching or some suggestions. But yeah, don't really worry too much about artificial intelligence tools because they won't help you to make your application unique. It's you who can do it. Don't get proofread by a lot of people. We as mentors will be, of course, reading yours, and probably you can ask a couple of seniors, but the more opinions you ask, then their thoughts come into picture and then your originality loses off. So that's the main idea. Of course, write, rewrite as much as you can, as much as you could till the last day. Keep writing it. Most of my applications I submitted half an hour back just because I was still improving on my essays as much as you could, because if you have time, why not? Some people would not do it for, let's say they leave 2 days back, which is also all right, but it depends on you whether you want to put enough time again and again into it. But yeah, don't stress too much about, don't do revisions 100 of times. 4, 5, 10 times is fine. And citations are important. Whatever you see, whatever you use information from internet, from research paper, mention it. Don't worry about the format, but keep it consistent. Keep one format everywhere. Ask for help, as simple as that. Don't shy about anything. Mail us, mail the JSPF team, the mentors, your seniors. For me, my seniors help me in every possible way. And that's why I owe a lot to them. And I know every possible senior from every possible department during those 4 or 5 years because they helped me a lot in every aspect. Right. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm up for questions. I think the session went a bit too long, but yeah, go ahead and throw up any kind of questions you guys have.
I think we were anyway having an office hour and questions were anyway supposed to come. So it's just a continuity.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Just questions.
Perfect.
Before you end, so here's just one more thing. Since you mentioned Anushka is already from the design background. So when you're writing project abstracts, like he mentioned, it might be a little different when it comes to design, but the whole crux of it is be very clear of, like he mentioned, like Suyash mentioned, be very clear about why you're doing it. And we tend, when it comes to architecture or design, you sometimes tend to lose in or get distracted into explaining your idea more in detail, but try and avoid that part. The remaining is going to be the same as any other STEM project. But yes, the main thing is don't lose focus when you're explaining your design, because we can leave that in the later part. Just keep a crux of it so that they know what you're looking at, what the aim of your project which you're doing is, and then you can give an end. Just give them a bit of the cake, don't give the whole cake. Simple as that. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
Okay, just a question. So is it basically project abstract is more of a summary of what you did in your project?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead now.
Thanks. Yeah, so project abstract is exactly, so you have a template already on the website. When you go there, you can check. It's like a standard template you can follow, but it depends on you cannot. Second thing, yes, project abstract is more or like you explain what was the problem or what you're tackling with, how did you solve it or how you're doing it, how much progress have you made, and the conclusion. So it's more or less like a summary. You don't need to submit anything else for the project. It's just that one-page document explaining about your project. But the more clearly, the more crisp and precise it is, the better it is, because there'll be so many applicants and the panelists will be reading all the abstracts. So it has to be written in a meticulous way, but at the end, it's just a summary.
Okay, so as you one time mentioned that we could basically, like you were like suggesting that to use some iconography or like some graphics,
Yeah.
if they allow. So is it actually
Yeah.
allowed? Can we actually use that?
So currently, yes, exactly. As per now, no, because that was a crazy idea in my mind. And if I would be applying now, I would do it, but I would ask or mail the JSPF team and ask them. But as I said before, also, it's not a substitute for writing. You always write the abstract, and then maybe as an additional document, you can always submit it, right? It's just, what do you say? It's an additional thing which you have done, so that will definitely help you to stand out. But don't consider it like you should not do just that. The abstract, the written part is the requirement. The requirement should be done.
Okay. And for the project, if we are like somehow done with the project, but as like you guys said that basically I don't have to explain everything about whatever I did in my project, like what is my design and all that. But I still want to show like, to make it clear to the panelists, like what exactly is my project about, because I think that they might need to see my project in order to understand it a bit more clearly.
Yeah.
So
Anushka, are you referring to the concept stage by any chance, which you might have prepared? If you are you doing architecture, is it so?
No, not architecture. I'm basically studying user experience design, but my idea, like it's a bit more based on education. Okay, so I still feel like that maybe if I have to talk about like how I'm actually helping about a certain topic, I think that they might need to look a bit into my project.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So that is what you should focus on in the abstract. First of all, I'll answer in two stages. First thing, your idea should be that essentially they should not need anything else apart from that abstract. So that's why if you start writing early, it's better that you can compile everything in one page, because otherwise everyone's project will be long enough that you will need 2, 3, 4 pages, and then everything else, probably screenshots of what you have done and something like that. So idea is that you, as much as you can, you need to be very crisp with your language, but at the same time, it should not be too technical that they don't understand. Apart from that, once you have submitted it, as I said, as an additional thing, you can always submit some links or something which your links to your profile or something like that, which you would like them to see in order to see that what is the project. But the idea is that many of the people might not complete their projects. So the idea for the abstract is that you write as much as you have given, like as much as you have progressed already. So that not everyone will be doing a project which can like be seen, or which can have some materialistic output, but they would have made some, of course, progress in something like if I'm doing a research project into STEM, there's a huge probability I won't complete even 10% of it. But whatever I've done, and can I explain it in one page of abstract? That's the idea. So if you have completed the project, well and good, just throw up those links and those any kind of other resource which you would like to do, but that's an additional thing. Your goal should be to compile everything in that one page.
Okay, all right. So all that one page basically have some word limit as well. So we have to follow that.
I think exactly.
Okay.
So I think Shivranjani has already put the template link into the chat. You can check it. I think it's a very good standard template link. But if you want not to follow it, you can definitely go about the way you would like to write it.
Also, Anushka, since you said you've already completed it, in addition to everything.
No, I'm not completed. I have the idea actually.
All right, that's fine. That's fine, absolutely fine. Just that, I mean, since you said that you want to move them through the journey because it's user experience, right? So the easiest way to go about is to explain to the jury or the audience, whomever it is who's reading, basically your reader, that why you have done it and what do you want to achieve by showing that particular user experience. That will easily translate your images or the concepts that you have into the words along with your links, which you can substantiate, So
Yeah.
why you're really doing it and how it's it helping, if that you can put it in words, that will really help you break the ice between everything.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
I
and I
will.
think there's like a very beautiful way they mention it, like what is a good essay or abstract. You show, you don't tell.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you don't show it with picture or with
Yeah.
thing, but the way you paint the picture in your writing, that itself will help a lot. So I think you should focus more on writing part, but then if you have achieved something or if you finish some kind of work, definitely submit it. It's an additional brownie point.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
So like you write your own book. That's it.
Yeah, perfect.
You write your own book and
Okay.
see how the reader is perceiving it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we have one more question. Senthur says that, may I know where to mention the citations in the abstract and essay? So in essay, you're not mentioning any citations, Senthur, because essay is something, it's original work, so you have to write it yourself. In abstract, there are already, you have to mention the citations always at the end of the document. So once you have written the abstract, just mention like citations and then mention all the links or research paper, journals, whatever you have used it. And if you use a template, which is already shared in the chat, the link is shared, you can see that there's a citation block already there. So you can use that template and, mention your citations. Okay, perfect. Any other questions, guys?
Actually, I have a few more questions as well. But it's not related to project abstract much. Just that for the community essay, the community article we have to write, they said that to talk about one problem, I guess. But what if we have like 2 or 3 problems? Can we?
Well, that's very good. That's what they are looking for, right? That you find more problems. Yes, at the end you cannot actually, because it's just, I think, a 500-word essay or 700, I don't remember. It's a 500-word essay, so you can mention multiple problems, but if you try defining each one of them, try finding solutions, you're done with the word limit. So you need to focus on one problem and see. So okay, so the idea of the essay is, of course, to make you think that you have these many problems, but you should be smart enough to see that which problem I can also tell the problem.
Try and solve.
I can tell a possible solution, exactly. And what am I doing? Like, can I also do something for the problem? Like, if the problem is that, let's say there's a curfew for girls, let's say in United Trichy, and then to a certain extent, that problem is very important, but what you can do about it, it comes to a limit, right? You cannot go and fight with the admin at the end of the day. Whereas if there's a problem of, which I mentioned in the beginning, if there's food wastage in a mess, I mean, you can do 100 things about it. You go and go to the student president or something, develop somehow, kind of a service where the food wasted or the food of one day can be used, can be packed and, sold the next day to some other people who might be in use of it. Just a random example. But you need to choose a problem where you have enough content to give to write in your essay, where you can tell the problem also and tell a good solution and what you can possibly do. Right?
Okay.
You can also put up all these problems and take Suyash's session into example, find your Ikigai within them. Not kidding. If you say you have like 3 to 4 problems, find which you connect with the most and then go ahead and really find a solution. So there you will, you will really be satisfied and happy. Oh, I did something. That's a very small thing to start, but it will help you in a long way.
You can find your problem, Ikigai.
Yes,
this
exactly.
is the problem.
This is the problem I want to solve.
It
might be just very small that I will do this. I will wake up in the morning. It's a problem. Yes, let's just solve it. It's fine. So you can choose your battle that you want to win. Okay, that's enough, I think.
Thank you. That's very interesting thing you actually said. I can come up with a lot of ideas.
Yes, you can. You're free to do anything you want to. Just focus on which is the most realistic one, and then we can approach. Yes.
All right.
Guys, any more questions?
Just one more. I mean, like, there are multiple. So, about the submission though, if we submit like more than like 2 of the essays, and they said that they will basically give us feedback. So we'll like more than 2 essays can actually get evaluated, whatever we basically submit.
So I'm not sure if you can submit more than 2, but let's say if
Okay.
you are able to submit, then you'll get the review of all of them,
All right.
a feedback for all of them. But if it's not allowed to submit, I think it's allowed. You can submit, but it's also mentioned in the website in the submissions page where they mentioned how to submit it with a Google link and everything.
Mhm.
So I think there you can find the information. But of course, if it's allowed, you can submit more, then you'll get feedback for all of them. So it's not an issue.
Or
And
Anushka, yes. Go
post
ahead.
media checkpoint also, you can always there'll be like you'll be assigned a different mentor, and when you're applying towards the final application, so then you'll have multiple chances to get feedback also.
All
Or
right.
if you're really, really confused, you have more than 2, you can reach out to any of the mentors, and if they have
Yeah.
the time, fix a time with them. If they really, if you really, this particular essay is close to your heart, you give them 3 options and they might help you choose 1 or maybe 2, and then you can
Yeah.
go ahead with the rest. So even before
Yeah.
that, you can have your own screening. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I think that's also an idea. Like if you have any doubts also, you can just throw it up to our emails and it should be possible. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
No worries. Yeah.
Anybody else? So this is, yes, the office hour is then official. Is there any way 2 people here? You can be happy to shoot in your questions.
Yeah,
We'd be happy to
definitely.
help them. Guys, I think I joined in late. If you don't mind giving your introductions once again, if that's okay. And I think probably NIT students have a NetFest Pro show happening, so they might want to leave as well.
Okay.
No worries, we won't keep you long. But yes, I think the whole idea of this office hour in general was to, give a slight gentle reminder that the media checkpoint is here and you might want to start and pace up things a bit. And I'm pretty sure Suyash's session today will help you guys a lot. Because Ikigai is a big topic. It's a big book as well, which he summarized in an hour and a half, which is very good. But yes, apart from that, anybody else in general, any questions about the media checkpoint, more essays, any other points where we can help?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
This is the final. This was my final slide. So make sure
Nice.
you take the less traveled road. That might make the difference. I think this is a very, very popular phrase everyone has read.
Yep.
So anyway, like the idea behind is that you try as much as you could, and
Yep, of course.
like that was such an amazing idea where horticulture came into picture, and then it was
Yeah,
merged with transportation.
I mean,
Like,
actually, when I read more, I was just background me thinking the whole point. I think he mentioned apart from horticulture, there was something else also he mentioned in his interest, research on transportation, and there was one more particular point which made sense and it could be completely linked with cultivation. And my mind
okay.
was very fascinated about it. It's pretty
Yeah,
interesting
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, the idea is like always like right. Mention those points, and then you'll start seeing things forming. So you need to write those stuff.
Yes, strength of materials. You're perfect. So when you mention strength of materials and when you mention horticulture and cultivation, right? So, and I think you also said you're from the civil engineering background, correct?
Yeah.
So, horticulture, like you said, any sort of cultivation requires good amount of research into what is the kind of material you're going to be using to design your pipelines, to do the sprinkler irrigation and stuff like those. You can think of something recyclable where you can use natural methods of irrigation or re-irrigation and how that is going to help into the cultivation process in general. A lot of stuff can be done and there is good, I'm pretty sure now that the startup culture in India is growing very fast, there are a lot of companies or startups actually working on these things as well. You will find very good reading material. Just use the right keywords and search them accordingly. That'll be really helpful. And always follow what your heart says. And I think I read one session or one slide of Suyash just mentioned, what if you don't find your Ikigai? Trust me, none of us find it till the last day. But we are somewhere closer each day to finding what we really want to. That's it. It happens. It always happens.
Yeah,
It always
it's always
I
a practice. Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
always. I think in 7th grade, I thought I wanted to be an architect. I'm nowhere close to architecture. Back then, I thought that was my Ikigai. Right now, I'm not close, but yes, I know design is mine. So it's just one thing that stays with you and will help you. But yes, start figuring that out every day. It's not like how it happens in movies that, oh shit, I will do this today. But yes, it's like a short subconscious process. Right?
Okay. Any other questions, guys?
I think we are good, maybe.
We are good then. Okay, then yeah, thank you very much for attending the mentorship session, and then thank you, Monica, for joining for the office hour as well. Of course, you guys have any doubts, I'll mention my email in the chat, and Monica also can mention hers. And you can always contact us on our emails for any particular advice, or even let's say in Anushka case, if you have written multiple essays, then you can always contact us to really understand which essays, what you want to write something. But of course, you should do a bit of background homework onto the website. You should know what you're applying for, what is your basic idea, and then we can help you to streamline. Because if you take too much advice from too much people, I think I mentioned in one of the slides, it becomes a mess. Like your originality loses. But if you need advice to streamline your process, very good. Always contact. So yeah, I think we are good, and I've mentioned my email, so you can email me. And then yeah, of course, have a nice Sunday night. See you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you for attending the session and really good. Hoping forward to seeing your essays.
Yes, definitely. Have a great day, guys. See you. Bye.